This is simply the most bizarre team. The members are extremely outrageous. The one with slow reactions is a descendant of the Shark Queen. When it gets hungry, it will treat its teammates as snacks. Then there's the white-haired one with a brain comparable to Einstein. Anything he holds can be used as a deadly projectile. He relies on his incredible calculation ability for precise attacks. And then there's this yellow weasel in front of us. Although it may not look very smart, it is actually a killing machine on the battlefield. It has once torn apart 98 Special Forces soldiers with its bare hands. Little did they know, this seemingly inconspicuous fellow is very cunning. This is located at the Dream Prison in Delaware, USA. It houses high-risk criminals, high IQ inmates with extraordinary brains, and high-risk individuals with superpowers. A sage with white hair in an orange prison uniform easily kills a bird with no less than 20 ricochets using a small ball. With such incredible calculation ability, he quickly attracted the attention of high-ranking military officer Waller. Waller devised a plan. She offered a 20-year sentence reduction as a condition to recruit the white-haired one into an impossible mission. To ensure the white-haired one's absolute obedience, Waller ordered a microbomb to be implanted in his cervical spine. As long as he has any thoughts of escaping during the mission, the bomb will detonate. Then, Waller introduced the white-haired one to Colonel Rick. Rick had completed many tasks assigned by Waller. He would serve as the captain for this operation. When the two arrived at the rendezvous point, the white-haired one finally met his teammates. They are officially known as the Suicide Squad. Here was the Boomerang Captain, the Black Guardian, and the Man Spear, and the Yellow Weasel, who just got out of the armored vehicle, let out a howl. In addition, the team also included Mongrel from outer space, and the mysterious TDK. When everyone had boarded, the last team member finally arrived. She was Harley Quinn. They planned to land from the sea and swim to the dangerous beach. Under the cover of night, the team set off towards the mission site. However, unexpected events followed one after another. As soon as the Yellow Weasel jumped into the sea, it struggled continuously. It turned out that this guy couldn't swim. Quickly, it sank to the bottom of the sea. The white-haired one hurriedly dragged the Yellow Weasel to the shore. After inspection, the weasel was found to have drowned. As the teammates arrived at the coast one after another, they were preparing to form a battle formation. Unexpectedly, something happened. As soon as the Black Guardian came ashore, he frantically shouted towards the jungle. His demeanor clearly indicated he was signaling a warning. It turned out that this guy was a traitor. He had already leaked information to the military on the island. Suddenly, the enemies surged in like a tide, and shot the Black Guardian dead. Seeing the situation spiraling out of control, Rick immediately requested Waller for an evacuation, but his request was denied by Waller. Just as he finished speaking, Harley Quinn fired back first with a rocket launcher. Boomerang quickly followed her into the fray to slay the enemies. In an instant, the beach was filled with smoke as both sides fell into fierce gunfire. Harley Quinn moved gracefully, navigating through the hail of bullets. She found a rock near the jungle to use as cover. At this moment, the other team members on the beach were in a fierce battle. They were suppressed by the enemy's firepower. At this tense moment, a command from the command center came through the walkie-talkie, ordering TDK to go to battle. He separated his arms. TDK's superpower was actually to detach his arms. Then he could control his arms to attack the enemies.
I didn't pick the damn team!
The enemy quickly reacted. Several machine guns fired wildly. TDK fell to the ground, wailing in pain. Immediately after, Mongrel leaped from the high ground. He charged straight towards the helicopter. The out-of-control aircraft spun in the air. The rotor blades whirred, knocking branches away. Boomerang Captain was caught off guard, and suffered the consequences. Mongrel was also engulfed by the flames of the explosion. On the other side, the Spear was tragically killed by a hail of gunfire. The white-haired one witnessed his teammates' tragic deaths. Terrified, he turned to run away. A cold glint flashed in Waller's eyes. She pressed the button. With a muffled bang, the bomb in the white-haired one's cervical spine detonated. It was thought that this mission would end in tragedy, but unexpectedly, Waller was well prepared. She secretly dispatched 2 squads to land simultaneously. At this point, Waller's true plan finally began to unfold. Time rewinds to 3 days ago. In a corner of the prison, a man was cleaning the restroom. He was Dua, nicknamed Bloodsport. His appearance was very ordinary, but he was a world-class marksman. From a young age, Bloodsport grew up under his father's strict training. He developed extraordinary skills. Any object in his hands could become a deadly weapon. He once sent Superman to the ICU with a kryptonite bullet. As a result, Bloodsport ended up in prison. He just wanted to live peacefully in prison, but fate wouldn't let him be. Bloodsport's daughter Tara, who was under 16 years old, was about to face trial for theft. Waller took the opportunity to force him to serve as the leader of the Suicide Squad to carry out the mission. Otherwise his daughter would also be imprisoned in Dream Prison. Bloodsport, feeling helpless, had to comply. Then, Waller took Bloodsport to meet the team members. The first was Smith, nicknamed Peacemaker. He was also a world-class marksman. His upbringing was similar to Bloodsport's. When the two met, they immediately clashed, refusing to back down. They were unwilling to give in to each other. Next was the Sharkman, Nace. At this moment, he was pretending to read seriously, but the book was upside down, making it quite comical. It is said that he is a descendant of the ancient shark god, and possesses mysterious and powerful abilities. The second-generation rat controller, Zoya, was also in the team. Her superpower was unique. She could control rats to follow her commands. The last member was a polka dot man, wearing a superpower suppressor. His superpower was quite bizarre. He could expel dimensional polka dots from his body to eliminate enemies. However, this ability sometimes put him in awkward situations, so he had to wear the suppressor. With that, the Suicide Squad was fully assembled. Harley Quinn and the others were merely a Suicide Squad to draw fire. Waller explained the situation of the mission to the team members. They were about to head to an island nation near the coast of South America. This country had been under the rule of the Herrera family for the past century. However, recently, General Luna and Mao had usurped power. They brutally killed the king's family. Although the US government was indifferent to the fate of the local people, the newly established Luna regime was extremely anti-American. Waller was concerned about the Jotunheim laboratory on the island, especially that the Starfish project could be discovered. The Starfish project was originally a research program on extraterrestrial life. If it fell into the hands of the Luna government, it could cause a catastrophic disaster globally. To prevent potential disasters, Waller instructed the team members to find the project leader Guff, after successfully landing, and have him lead them to Jotunheim to destroy the Starfish project. According to military intelligence, Guff visited a club named Cute Kittens for Leisure every day. That was the best place for implementing the project. Under the fire cover of the Suicide Squad, the team successfully landed on the southern shore. Now they just needed to cross the jungle to infiltrate the city and reach the club. However, at this moment, the Polka Dot Man's power suppressor had malfunctioned, and the energy inside him was gradually going out of control. Meanwhile, the command center received a signal from Rick. Originally, after he and Harley Quinn narrowly escaped the battlefield, Rick was captured by local armed forces. Harley Quinn was also missing. Given that they were close in proximity, Waller decided to change the plan temporarily, to rescue Colonel Rick first. So, the group decided to take a short rest and set off after dawn. However, the Polka Dot Man was in a critical condition. To prevent harming his teammates, he ran into the bushes to release all his energy, and then awkwardly returned. Bloodsport was still trying to gather his thoughts, when the rat under his feet suddenly screamed. It turned out that the Sharkman Nace had almost eaten Zoya. This guy was clearly greedy again. Bloodsport shot to save Zoya. Although Nace was unafraid of bullets, he still fell to the ground from the powerful impact. Fortunately, Zoya saw that he was innocent at heart, and didn't hold it against him. As dawn broke, the team quickly set off on their journey. After confirming Rick's location, they launched the rescue operation. Unexpectedly, a farcical blunder was about to unfold. As the operation began, the Sharkman swallowed a guarding soldier. The Peacemaker seized the opportunity to swing his axe at the enemies. A soldier aiming at the Peacemaker from behind was shot dead by Bloodsport using a slingshot. These two arch-enemies actually competed in flamboyant killings on the battlefield. Even the wounded on stretchers were not spared. The Peacemaker leaped onto the rooftop and shot poison darts. Even the laundress fell victim to his attacks. Bloodsport used a flamethrower to turn the support staff into ashes. The man taking a shower was also electrocuted by him when he hit the fan.
Non-lethal. You lose.
In the end, the group arrived in front of the hut where Rick was held. As the tent was lifted, they found Rick peacefully drinking tea. It turned out he was rescued by the rebel leader Saul. Their goals were unexpectedly aligned. Both aimed to overthrow the tyrannical rule of the current government, though they were shocked by the bodies scattered everywhere. But in order to overthrow Luna's regime, Saul had to make a deal with them. He then arranged for an informant to take them into the city, to capture Guff, the key figure behind the Starfish project, because he is the core scientist responsible for the Starfish project. Guff has been studying this project for 30 years. He is the only one capable of controlling Patrick Star. In early experiments, A massive one-eyed starfish was tied to the space station. 3 Americans brought it into the cabin without any protection. The giant starfish would produce smaller starfish from its armpits. However, these were not larvae but parasitic derivatives. They would attach themselves to the host's face and manipulate the host to become a part of themselves. They used the host's consciousness to enhance their strength. Guff kept it imprisoned in the Joseheim laboratory for conducting human experiments. Meanwhile, Harley Quinn had fallen into a real predicament. Previously, she had obtained the spear's weapon. Harley planned to perish alongside the enemy. However, she was unfortunately captured by Luna's subordinates. Surprisingly, the soldiers didn't kill her, but instead dressed her up and sent her to Luna. They regarded Harley as a representative of local resistance against authority. Luna attempted to win the hearts of the people and solidify his rule by marrying her. After a night passed, when Luna looked towards Jotunheim, he revealed his ambitions. Luna intended to conquer the world with monsters. At that time, if anyone questioned him, whether their parents or children, they would pay a painful price. Hearing that he wouldn't spare even children, Harley seized the moment of his distraction to kill him. On the other side, in the complex conditions of the rainforest, the team members who had not undergone physical training quickly ran out of stamina. The polka dot man's face once again showed colorful energy. The others couldn't help but show concern. The polka dot man explained helplessly that his mother was a scientist at the Star Laboratory. In an attempt to turn her child into a superhero, she infected him with a cross-dimensional virus. As a result, he had to release these projections on time every day, or he would die in pain. Such a tragic fate twisted the polka dot man's mind, leading him to perceive everyone around him as his mother. The Suicide Squad endured a long journey, and finally met the informant arranged by Saul. With Saul's assistance, they found a local driver named Leon. Saul thoughtfully prepared clothes for everyone, so that they could disguise themselves. On the way, Zoya shared her backstory. Her father, a legendary rat catcher, taught her how to control rats. Afterwards, Zoya survived by using rats to steal jewelry, but her father passed away due to the burdens of life. Then Zoya brought her father's inventions to America. However, she was imprisoned in the Dream Prison for robbing a bank with rats. At this moment, Bloodsport also mentioned the reason he feared rats. He had been locked in a box with rats as punishment for not completing a task during his childhood. To this day, he still fears rats. Under Leon's guidance, the group quickly arrived at the club that Guff frequently visited. Except for the Shark King, who stayed in the van due to his obvious appearance, the others entered the club. Soon, Bloodsport spotted Guff before he could draw his weapon to control him. The security team suddenly barged in to check identities. Bloodsport had to let his companions evacuate Guff through the back door. He exposed his identity to buy time. Then Zoya controlled the rats to deal with the guards at the back door. They successfully loaded Guff into the van. After completing the mission, the 3 who had voluntarily been captured were contemplating how to escape. They unexpectedly learned from the security team that Harley Quinn was still alive and being tortured in a cell. The 3 quickly dealt with the security team. Then they regrouped with their teammates to prepare to rescue Harley. At this moment, Harley was suffering from electrical torture administered by Mao. However, she remained resolute and unafraid. Under the impact of the strong electric current, Harley gradually lost consciousness. Mao had to pause the interrogation. However, after he left, Harley suddenly opened her eyes. With her agile skills, she took out the guard. Harley first choked the bearded man with her legs, and after grabbing the keys to unlock herself, she unleashed a killing spree.
What will they say about me when he asked me? And just to give load everywhere
She fought fiercely, using her skirt to choke enemies with a dagger. Then she switched to a submachine gun and attacked in the corridor. Blood splattered in her eyes like flowers and butterflies. Harley also picked up a spear and demonstrated her marksmanship. In the end, she successfully escaped. Harley hailed a taxi but didn't know where to go. Suddenly, she saw a familiar figure appear before her. As Rick was about to take action, Harley unexpectedly showed up. Realizing that her teammates had come to rescue her, Harley was deeply moved. At this moment, everyone was gathered. They decided to carry out the ultimate mission, to completely destroy the Starfish project. The team quickly formulated a battle plan. Using Guff's retina, they breached the door. After Zoya controlled the rats to cut the surveillance lines, Guff drove the team forward. In the pouring rain, the Suicide Squad made a powerful entrance. They first took Guff hostage and stormed into Jotunheim. Using iris recognition, they opened the steel door of the laboratory and infiltrated inside. Bloodsport led the team to set up explosives. Rick, along with Guff and Zoya, arrived at the laboratory. The scene before them left them astonished. In the iron cages on both sides were Starfish people. They said Guff had tortured them for 30 years. Guff merely sneered in response. He showcased the massive extraterrestrial creature, Patrick Star. This place was not only a laboratory but also a prison. The prisoners were all controlled by the Starfish, becoming puppets of Patrick Star. At this moment, Guff revealed the truth. 30 years ago, the U.S. government discovered the extraterrestrial creature Patrick Star. Upon learning that it could control human consciousness, he collaborated with the previous government of that country to establish this laboratory for developing biological weapons. However, with the recent coup in that country, the U.S. side wanted to cover up the scandal, which is why they sent the Suicide Squad to clean up the mess. Rick suddenly realized that the mastermind behind the Starfish project was the U.S. government. He knew that all the evidence was in the laboratory's hard drive, so he decided to make it public, but he was stopped by the military informant Smith. At this moment, the timed bomb in the building detonated. The group had not yet regained their senses when falling boulders buried them. When Guff regained consciousness, the laboratory that held the monster had been blasted open. The monster's tentacles dragged him into the abyss. The screams woke Smith up. He saw the injured Rick in the reflection of his helmet. Smith immediately fought him for the hard drive. Rick was severely injured and quickly defeated. Despite his desperate resistance, he gradually fell behind against Smith. Rick was losing ground. In the end, he was fatally stabbed in the heart by a shard of glass. Zoya grabbed the hard drive and fled, but was chased down by Smith. To keep the secret safe, he aimed his gun at Zoya. On the other side, Bloodsport, Harley, and others were shot, and while planting explosives in the office, the polka dot man reacted quickly and killed the soldiers with his polka dot balls. However, he accidentally triggered a bomb on the ground. The building exploded. At a critical moment, the group leaped out. Bloodsport landed right in front of Smith. After reading everything from Zoya's eyes, he drew his gun and faced off against Smith. The bullet unexpectedly passed through Smith's bullet and pierced through his neck. Bloodsport's expression grew serious as he learned the truth. He understood the heavy cost behind this battle. At this moment, the ground trembled violently. The imprisoned Patrick Star began to stir. The group hurriedly evacuated Jotunheim in desperation. However, it had been imprisoned by humans for decades, and at this moment, its rage reached a peak. It was determined to take revenge on humanity. Patrick Star raised its tentacles, and countless small starfish shot out. After floating in the air for a moment, they attached themselves to the soldiers' faces. Zoya hurriedly put on a mask and shouted for everyone to protect their faces, or they would be controlled and turned into puppets. But ordinary soldiers were no match for the Suicide Squad's agility. They were instantly annihilated. Even Mao wasn't spared. The fallen soldiers were controlled by Patrick Star, proclaiming dominance with a victor's stance. Then the alien army marched towards the city center. Wherever they went, destruction followed. Despite the continuous screams of the civilians, Waller claimed that the Suicide Squad had completed the mission to destroy Jotunheim. As for whether the local residents survived, they didn't need to care. Bloodsport couldn't stand by and watch Patrick Star wreak havoc. Ignoring Waller's threats, he was determined to stop it, even if it meant sacrificing his life. The Suicide Squad then defied orders and turned towards the city center. Waller was furious. She was about to activate the bomb to blow their heads off. At this critical moment, the subordinates in the command center felt uneasy. One of them picked up a mop and knocked Waller down. Remembering that civilians were still waiting for rescue, the team immediately connected to the satellite to plan an operation for the Suicide Squad. The squad confronted Patrick Star head-on. Bloodsport drew his saber and attached it to his mechanical gun. The Shark King sprinted, leaped, and clung to Patrick Star's arm, biting it. The polka dot man envisioned it as his mother, and shot polka dot balls to burn its legs. But the next second, he was unfortunately smashed into pulp by Patrick Star. The Shark King was also thrown away. Patrick Star was simply too powerful. The puppets controlled by it surrounded Bloodsport and Zoya. Zoya came up with an idea in a hurry. She raised her light stick to summon the rats to gnaw at Patrick Star. Harley seized the opportunity to throw a spear. Patrick Star quickly fell to the ground. People regained their consciousness as well. The Suicide Squad triumphed in rescuing the island's citizens. After completing the mission, everyone boarded the plane and left. In the end, the weasel disappeared into the night. That guy is truly cunning. It pretended to be dead and fooled everyone. Thus, the film comes to an end. This is a surprise-filled anti-hero movie. Its unique character development is refreshing. The team members each have their own agendas, yet they gradually bond during the mission. It's a film filled with joy, thrills, superheroes, and monsters. The visual style is striking. It is a visual feast worth watching. Interested friends can check out the original film The Suicide Squad. If you like my channel, please click to subscribe to my channel.